So we're up to Shin Tzadi Ches Seif Tes, if I'm not mistaken. So says the Mechaber, Ir She'Sheves Al Sfas HaNachal. That's right. So we've got a city which is it's got a river next to it. She'Reiv Ha'itzim Hu Yovish Mishtamshim. If you look at the picture, picture number 62, you can see it there. You've got the city on the left, and then you've got a river there, and then you start measuring from the other side of the river because it's got that itztaba. So again, says the Mechaber, Ir She'Sheves Al Sfas HaNachal. You've got a city which is sitting on the bank of a river. She'Reiv Ha'itzim Hu Yovish. Most of the time, this river is dried up, and the city uses that. It's like a sort of a perimeter area where the city uses. She'ena mole ele b'shas hageshem. It's only full in the rainy season. Im yesh lefoneh matzeva. If there is, he says in the side there, the notes, pirush itztaba, i.e. pirush daka hanizka b'gemara paiskim. This is like a platform. V'harav nokat matzeva mokum daka. But you can see a picture of it there in 62. If it's got some sort of platform, reichav abba. Interestingly, in this book, he pictures it as like a broad walk all the way along. But it's some sort of pavement there. Matzeva reichav arba amas, and it's wide 4 amas. Al sfas hanachal, on the riverbank. Kadeshiyam dolel v'yishtamshu b'nachal, so that you could stand on this itztaba and use the nachal. Nimtza hanachal bichlal ho'eh. So since it has usage for the city, then it's going to be bichlal ho'eh. And therefore you begin measuring the 2,000 amas from the other side of the river. And therefore you the nachal is concluded in the city because of this matzeva, and therefore the itztaba, and therefore you count the 2,000 amas from the edge of the nachal, the second edge of the nachal, away from the city. But if you didn't have a platform there, then you only measure from the houses and you lose that extra amount of the width of the river. And therefore the nachal will be included in the 2,000 amma measurement. Okay, says the Mishnah Berurah Sif Cotton Mem Hey. Matzeva rotzolema itztaba. Okay, habanuya betzida sha'al yoda, because now you've got the itztaba there, or the platform, or the broad walk there. Mishtamshim benachal, you can use the nachal gam kashim elea, even when it is full. Afagav the ein ma'abrin l'ha'eh ele beis dira. You only normally include residential units. V'hanachal hala ein roy l'dira. You can't sleep in the nachal, or you can't live there. V'yesh leima dahosam hu b'sheboyin la'abeh ho'im ibnei mokum mesuyim shechutzalei. There is, you need a beis dira when you've got a specific house and it's on the outskirts of the city. Is that included in the city that you can measure 2,000 amas from there? So you need, as we discussed previously, you need a mokum dira. This nachal is for the use of the entire city. And the entire city can use it. True, you can't, it's not a mokum dira. Nevertheless, you can use it to count the 2,000 amas.
It's like the Morosh. I'm just thinking in Mako, no seriously.
It's like what?
In Mako, there's a river Morosh. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, and it dries up in one thing?
Do you know what I'm talking about? There's
really?
River when you come into Mako.
Okay, I've got 2 makavas here, and they are saying in Makav you've got a river on the outskirts. 3 makavas here. Okay, 3 makavas. Okay, good. Okay, Shaoli is waving, he's also makava. Yeah, okay. Okay, 3 makavas. V'ayim b'magen Avram. So, and it dries up, the river on the border of Makav, it dries up in the summer? In the water, and it dried up? Okay. V'ayim b'magen Avram, shemistapik im b'chol mokum shemishtamshim b'noeh naschel limdei misham. Now, the Magen Avram is mesupuk that if b'chol mokum shemishtamshim b'noeh naschel limdei misham, whether or not you can count from there. V'ayim b'li rabba shehiskim de'ein lo hakil. He actually agrees that you shouldn't be makil to include, to count the 2,000 dollars from the other end of the nachal. Degam nachal gufa das kama rishonim shecholkim v'serim da nachal eile b'midas alpayim. Because there are many rishonim who say that the nachal should actually, you should start the measurement from the edge of the city and not include the nachal, and the nachal should be included in the 2,000 amas. And therefore not to add on that nachal to the 2,000 amas. But if there is no matzeva there, shall roichav arba amas of width 4 amas, and certainly if you didn't have one at all there, then you measure mepesach poteh and pirish beis hachitzon v'hainu mikir ha'ir. From the perimeter of the city, the wall of the city, that's where you measure, and you cannot include the nachal. Okay, good. Yud. Yeshvei tzrifim. People who live in huts. They live in houses which are made out of wood and reed. They haven't got a din of a city. You can only therefore measure the 2,000 amas from the entrance of the house and not these little huts. Unless you've got a hekuf of a mechitza of 10 or a ditch of 10 tvachim around their houses, then it would count. But if you've got 3 chatzeres shel shnei botzim, kavuim shel even, you've got 3 chatzeres, each of the 3 chatzeres has 2 houses in them, and they're proper sturdy houses made out of stone, shel nesarim, or with wooden beams. Elu oisim im eskulo keva, that makes the whole shchuna like an ear, v'yeshem din ear, and therefore has the status of a city. U'merabim oisav v'noistim lo alpaim amo l'chol ruach kashah hayoris. So he's got a picture here. So I don't know if you can see, but you've got 3 chatzeros, 1, 2, and 3. I don't know if you can see it, and you've got these little strifim. But because you've got 3 chatzeros, each with 2 houses in, then you square up the whole thing, and that makes it a little, and then you count $2,000 from that. Shoni, you can see, yeah, okay. So, Mishnah Berurah Sif Kotem Mem Tes. Sheyeshim Ba'alim, She'en Kavuim. These little huts are not considered Kavua. B'mokom Echod, Ele Yeshim, Kan, Zman Ma, they're like nomads. They sort of here for a few weeks. V'achkach K'shekola Hamira, when the sheep have grazed and there's not much pasture, there's not much grass left. Holchim L'mokom Acha, they move on to another place. So there's not Kavua. V'im Kavuim B'mokom Echod, if however they stay in one place, then have a Ke'ir. It's unclear, says the Pri Megadim, how long have you got to be there for it to be kavua. So if you've got a little area where the nomads, gypsies sort of living in these huts, then each one would measure from the Pesach of his house. Because if you did have this mechitza or ditch or whatever around their house, the whole thing is considered like arba amas. Then you measured 2,000 from around the hekuf.
So this week's Sedra, when they had the Golker, when they were camping.
Yeah.
So they were also like starting.
Yeah, but there.
What was that considered? Was that considered like?
Yeah, so
they
that's
also like nomads.
They're moving, true. But we dafka do measure tchum, and they dafka mention that the Machane Levi, the Machane where Moshe is within 2,000 amas, so that they can walk to the end, to the actual camp.
So from where did they count?
So I think where the actual tents where they live is considered like daladamas. That's considered a shchuna. That's considered a fixed thing. They're moving. Yeah, I suppose. Good question. That's mamash this week's Sedra. I've got a feeling because it says Al Pi Hashem Yisou, therefore that makes it kavua. They cannot move until HaKadosh Baruch Hu says so. That makes it kavua. I vaguely remember. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Weiter. Mechitza Asara. We're up to. Is that right? Yeah. Mechitza Asara. Sif Kotan Nun Beis. Umayri Sheyashul B'Soif Hukuf. So we're talking about a situation where they lived there and then later they were makafit to Chudel Kameh. Now that's Yudalef. That's the next sif. Okay, Yudalef. Let's finish off Shin Tzadliches. Shehukfa V'achkach Yoshua. So you've got a city, which there was a wall. There was a wall around the city. V'achkach Yoshua. And then people came to live there. Moed din lo mimokim yeshivaso. Then you measure not from the wall, but from the where people live. However, Yoshva V'achkach Hukva. If people were living there, and then later they built the wall. Moed din lo mechaymaso. Then you measure from the chayma. Says the Mishnah Berurah to explain it. V'achach Yoshva ve'inam yosheves kula ad hachayma. They built the wall there, and then afterwards they came to live there. It doesn't last all the way to the wall. So the question is where you measure from, because if it was all the way to the wall, then it'd be no nafkamina. Pirush lo yimdod me'achayma. In a situation where the wall is first, you measure from their houses and not from the wall. Pirush lo yimdod me'achayma ela min abatim. V'ladas haramah le'el b'sifhei noisim la'od shivim amma mishirayim. You always, according to the Ramah, we've said previously, you do 70 ammas beyond that, and then you measure 2,000. Sha'achayim zu eina chashuv l'shavya kula ka'arba ammas. Shaloi hukfu l'dira. The key point over here is this wall that was there first was not mukuf l'dira. You just built a wall. And therefore, you have to measure not from the wall, but from the houses. Shenasis kodim yeshiva also. It was because it was there before the yeshiva, before people started dwelling there. Unless there's actually a residential area in the wall itself, which is within 70 amas of the people's houses. Then mitzaref esimo, but otherwise not. Nunhei. But if, on the other hand, they were living there, and then later you built the wall, then you made it from the chayma. Says the Mishnah Berurah Nun Afilu hachayma rochek harba min habatim, even if it's quite far away from the houses, to kimin shehukfa v'achkach mikri hekav ladira. Since you had people living there, and then it was mukaf afterwards, that's called mukaf ladira. V'chol ma shebesoicha, and anything that's inside that wall, it's choshev ka'arba amas, is called arba amas, and therefore you measure 2,000 amas beyond the wall. You obviously add 70 and 2/3 amas from the end of the wall, and then you start measuring 2,000 amas. So that's the end of Shin Tzadi Ches.